Hey guys, and welcome to episode number 6 of Uncut. My name is Billy, or BK23 on Instagram, and today we're going to do my very first product review. So I thought about whether or not I wanted to go traditionally and do a lighter or cutter review. There's so many great accessories out there, but one of the questions I'm most often asked is, what humidor do I use? Can I suggest a good quality brand of humidors? How do you season a humidor, etc.? So today we're going to cover most of that, in that we are going to take a look at Cigar's Direct new beautiful piano finished lacquered desktop humidor, and we're also going to take a look at a kind of unusual and very cool Boveda acrylic humidor. Two very different, one non-traditional, one very traditional, but both aesthetically very beautiful. So I'm excited to dig into both of those, and I'll show you a couple of tips and tricks on how to season a standard cedar humidor versus what Boveda's done to make that process a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and take a look at both. We'll start with the Cigar's Direct one. When they reached out to me and said that they wanted me to review one of their humidors, I was a little bit hesitant, not really familiar with their brand, but I went to their website and took a look at the offerings that they had, and I was unbelievably impressed, at least aesthetically, with some of the designs that they've come up with. The colors are spectacular. Now looking at the first box that they sent me, the quality is very good. So let's talk a little bit about how to dig into the humidor, what to expect when you open it, how to season it, how many cigars it holds, and whether or not it'd be a worthwhile purchase for you guys. So let's take a look at the Cigar's Direct one now. So this is the Cigar's Direct Shea Humidor. As you can see, it's got a beautiful lacquer finish. It's got a good weight to it as well, which you want on a desktop. You definitely don't want somebody to walk by and accidentally hit it and the whole thing topple to the ground. What I love about this, though, is the design. I really think they did a great job on all of their humidors, incorporating some really cool, modern design. The styling and the artistic aspect of it I enjoy. It's definitely something that you'd be proud to display on your desk or in your home. They had 6 or 8 different versions. Some of them were very colorful, but they were all consistent in that the design was pretty spectacular. So whoever they did engage to do the design for their boxes did a really, really great job. Even when you go to the website, Cigar's Direct on Instagram, they have a link in their bio that'll pull up all of their humidors. The graphic design and the styling is the very first thing that stood out. So I've never really been a huge fan of desktop humidors. When I started smoking cigars, I kind of went all in and really went for a much larger box. But there are a lot of people who start to fall in love with it. They've got 25 or 30 cigars. They're not sure what to do with them. They've got them in Tupperware. They evolve into 50 or 60 cigars and then decide, hey, I'm committed. I want to buy myself a nice humidor. What do I look for? So first and foremost, you want to look for a good seal. When I open the box, I want to hear a little bit, or at least feel a little bit of that soft close and suction. That to me says that the seal is going to be worthwhile. In this instance, you can almost, it slow closes because the air is being pressured out, meaning that it has a pretty tight seal, which I appreciate. When you open up the box, the second thing that you want to see is cedar. You can always tell cedar by the smell. I'm not sure that this is a Spanish cedar, which I do prefer. Definitely a cedar, but it's got a little bit more of a sweet versus a rich smell. So you may want to clarify with Cigar's Direct if you go check them out as to whether or not it's just standard cedar or Spanish. Either is fine. I do think that Spanish cedar is preferred because there's a little less smell to a Spanish cedar. But with 75 to 150 cigars in this box, I don't think it's going to affect them. You'll also see that it's got the divider. You can separate your cigars, pretty standard again on any and all humidors. This one's got a pretty good fit for spacing and separating boxes. The outer tray comes off, and when you open up the package, what you'll find is directions, which I'm going to go over because I absolutely kind of disagree with the way that they've given you seasoning instructions. The other thing that they give you is the standard foam humidification system. I absolutely hate these things. So not a reflection of Cigar's Direct, but I would certainly say that using these just puts your cigars in jeopardy. The foam, once it absorbs all the distilled water and you flip it upside down in your humidor, if it leaks in the slightest, you're going to warp your cigars and ruin the wrappers and potentially create mold opportunities as well. So I would suggest getting rid of this and replacing this with, I just happen to have one here, a Boveda pack. They have the seasoning packs. I'm a little more traditional. I like the old school seasoning method, which we'll talk about here in a second. But you can use the Boveda seasoning kit on these humidors as well. So I said that I don't like the directions in here because as it goes through and talks about seasoning your humidor, the very last thing it says is store cigars when the gauge reads between 65% and 75%. Relative humidity, that is. That is way too much relative humidity on the upper 70s side. You hear a lot people say that the old school trick to cigars and storage is 70 and 70, kind of the golden rule. Even that I think is incorrect. I like to store my cigars at 65% relative humidity and 65 degrees. I feel like anything over that just potentially creates mold and beetle issues. So as you're seasoning your humidor, don't worry, it will get a little bit higher. Once you put your cigars in, it should absorb some of that excess humidity, but you don't want it going anywhere past that 70% mark. Let the humidity be absorbed by the sticks, and then it should drop down into that 65, 66 range. If it starts to go higher, you can put the lower Boveda packs in there, and that'll help to absorb some of that excess. It also comes with your standard analog hygrometer. Absolutely not a fan of these either. They are never right. Get yourself a Boveda Butler or any kind of digital hygrometer. They're much, much more accurate. Then you've got your keys, kind of a nice feature to be able to lock up your humidor. Definitely don't want anybody going in there getting your Cubans that you haven't offered them to. So, like I said, you've got great seal, great outer lacquered box, very nice inners. The wood is definitely good quality. You've got your dividers for separating your sticks if you choose to. From everything that I can see, the latches on this box are pretty nice. The quality is definitely nice. The locking system is good. Again, the accessories that come with it, I'm not a fan of. I'm sure that they'll work, but I would suggest that you go the opposite and do the digital route for your hygrometer and your humidification system. Again, not a huge fan of beads, but I do think that the Boveda stuff is the best way and the easiest kind of way to humidify correctly without having to constantly monitor your box. So as you can see, the fit of the upper tray is great, the lower tray is nice, the quality is good. When you go to season the box, my suggestion to you is this. Get yourself a nice clean cloth, towel is fine. Distilled water, definitely don't use anything other than distilled water. Get a bowl, pour some distilled water in there, take your rag, saturate your rag, and then wring it out. You want to make sure that the rag is damp, but not soaking wet. You don't want to warp the wood by having way too much moisture absorbed into the wood. Then you'll have problems with this sealing correctly, or it won't close at all. Once you've wrung out that towel with the distilled water, you want to wipe down every single visible aspect of the cedar. Just quick sidebar. I like to let my humidors acclimate to the room for 2 or 3 days before I season them. What that means is let it sit in the environment that it's going to sit in, let the wood expand and contract like it naturally would, and then about 48 hours after it's set in the room, go ahead and begin the seasoning process. So once you've got that damp distilled water rag, you want to wipe down every single corner and all of the cedar tray, all of the bottom, all of the top. Again, any exposed cedar, you want to wipe down. Not oversaturating, just slightly changing the color of the wood. Within about 3 to 4 minutes, it should absorb that excess moisture, and the color should begin to change back to this nice, bright, vibrant cedar color. Wipe it down one more time. It's doing the same thing. You can take then a shot glass of distilled water, put it inside of there, close your humidor up, no cigars inside, just that distilled water. Take your digital hygrometer, put it in there as well, close up your box, lock it, and then let it sit. Within about 5 to 7 days, that wood should absorb all of that humidity and begin to keep a constant temperature and a constant humidity available to you. If you find that the temperature is too high, that is all because your ambient temperature is going to be too high. So you want to make sure that wherever you're storing these is going to be in kind of a cool, dark place, whether it be a closet or in a room where there aren't a lot of windows. Direct sunlight will obviously affect the temperature and lead to some issues if it's in that direct sunlight realm. After 5 to 7 days, take it out. You should see a good majority of that shot glass water has evaporated and then been absorbed by the box. From there, I suggest that you fill your humidor about 80% full of cigars. A lot of the time people message me and say, hey, I can't keep a constant humidity. It's too high, it's too low. And I ask them, how big is your humidor, number one? Oh, it fits 100 cigars. Well, how many cigars do you have in there? About 25. Can't do that. If you've got a 100 cigar box, you want to keep about 80 cigars in there. And that's about the maximum for filling up your humidor and maintaining the correct humidity. If you fill it too much, it's going to overabsorb and your cigars might start to dry out. So I think 80% of it full is really that sweet spot. So overall, again, great box, great colors, great wood, great quality. I really, really love the design. Definitely your traditional desktop humidor. Cigars Direct did a really, really nice job with these. I think the pricing is fair. I think that for a beginner or even intermediate humidor, this is a really, really good direction to go. Thank you, Cigars Direct, for sending this over. I'm impressed, at least by the quality and caliber as well as the inside. I wish that these companies would give you the option, and maybe they do, of sending over a digital hygrometer and a better humidification system. But all in all, I would say that they did a really, really nice job creating a really special intermediate level humidor. So take a look. Next up, we're going to take a look at the Boveda. So let me get this one out of the way, and I will show you an alternative to your traditional desktop humidor. All right, so now we're going to take a completely non-traditional perspective on humidors. I love that Boveda created something new and exciting. It's definitely got more of a modern or contemporary design, which I truly dig. What I love about this is not only is it a beautiful piece for storage, it kind of becomes a piece of art when you start to throw all of the different cigars in there. You know, you get the beauty of the wrapper, you get the color from the bands, and it really makes this thing pop. The only thing that I would say about this is that, you know, you cannot leave your traditional humidor out in a sunny or, you know, room where there's a lot of natural light. This you absolutely cannot leave anywhere where there are windows or sunlight protruding through. Certainly leaves the opportunity to ruin your cigars by having the sun shine in, much like if you leave a piece of clothing out for too long, sitting on a chair in the sun, and then you go to pull it and it's faded. Same thing with the wrappers on these cigars. There's so many oils. A, it's going to dry it out. B, it's going to discolor the bands and everything else. So beautiful design, definitely not friendly when it comes to having a room with a lot of windows, but in an office space or a basement where there are no windows, I think this thing would look really, really cool sitting out at the bar. So again, modern design. One of the things that I would say caught me off guard at first is the fact that there is no gasket to ensure a airtight seal all the way around the outer edge of this box. I was a little concerned until I tried to put it back on and noticed that this thing is machined so perfectly that I'm pretty sure that even with just it being acrylic to acrylic on the edges, that it would create a nice seal. The other thing about this that's pretty genius is they have completely alleviated the need to season the humidor. You lift out the tray and that'll hold easily, 50 to 75 cigars, I would assume. You take your Boveda pack, put them underneath, take your tray, pop it back inside, and boom, you've instantly got a humidified, zero risk humidor that does not allow for any kind of leakage. It does not allow for, it really is no fuss, no muss. You drop them in, you throw your cigars in, you close the lid, and you're good to go. I would suggest, of course, putting those in without cigars. Obviously, you have to take the plastic off for anybody that's sitting there thinking, oh my God, did he put the plastic on? No, take the plastic off of the Boveda, put them in the box, put the tray back in, put the top on without any cigars in it. I would put a digital hygrometer or the Boveda Butler inside of here and let this thing acclimate to the room for 2 or 3 days. build up a little bit of humidity. The good news is you can keep the digital hygrometer in there, without having to open it, and see what your humidity and temperature is. Once you've refined it exactly the way that you want it, fill it 80% with your cigars, let it sit, and you're good to go. The construction of this, the weight of this, again, I'm a modern contemporary fan. I love art. I think that this becomes an art piece, like I had mentioned earlier. There is a time and place, I think, for the classic humidor. Again, Cigars Direct did a really good job of creating a new spin with the modern art design. And on the opposite side of that, if you like the more industrial or modern look, the Boveda went above and beyond when it comes to being unique in a world of mostly traditional mahogany color, bland, kind of old school cigar bar humidors. So bravo to Cigars Direct and Boveda for coming out with two products that really are pretty exceptional. I would have to say that, in my basement, which you guys have seen, both would actually match really well. So it's hard to pick a favorite between the two. This one certainly wins for the most creative. That one certainly wins for, overall design from an aesthetics perspective when it comes to artwork. But I could put the two of them in a room together on opposite ends of the room, and I think people would be equally impressed by them both as they were walking around looking through. So I'm excited that Boveda sent me this. I'm excited about using their Butler, which I'm currently using in my tower humidor. I will say that the Bluetooth technology of being able to be upstairs and get alerts as to whether or not it's too humid, not humid enough, too hot, not hot enough, is a huge advantage over almost any other product on the market. And being able to utilize it in their acrylic humidor or in a Cigars Direct humidor is a really nice feature. So I hope you guys enjoyed the reviews of both the Boveda and Cigars Direct Humidor. Over the next couple of days, I'll let them sit down here and I'll get back to you on how well they've maintained the humidity and temperature in the room with a follow-up review of both. In the meantime, if there's anything that you guys can think of that you'd like me to incorporate content-wise, please leave a comment below. I'll also be sure to do some upcoming reviews of cigars as it gets a little bit warmer outside. But we'll take some time and do some cigar accessory reviews, cutters, lighters, and anything else that you guys can think of that you would enjoy, please let me know. I've got some fashion stuff coming up and a couple of other cool content items, and I look forward to sharing all that with you in future episodes. You guys have a good day.